Welcome to our channel, where we update the most surprising, shocking and fascinating developments from the movie Beyond the Gates. Today, we bring you an unforgettable episode, where every emotion is pushed to the limit, where power, love, revenge and secrets collide in a moment that can change everything. If you think you are prepared for every twist, then get ready, because this story will make you doubt everything that seems clear. Everything starts when it seems that Andre is in complete control. When he has put all the chess pieces in the right place, controlling every development, every relationship, every possible risk. As a man who is not used to failure, Andre always believes that his power, intelligence and courage are more than enough to keep the upper hand over anyone. But what Andre could not have expected was that Dani, the woman who seemed soft, gentle and predictable, was the one holding the trigger for the collapse of the entire empire he had built. There was no warning, no sign that Dani was hiding anything, until she herself peeled off the false mask and revealed a truth that almost made Andre collapse on the spot: she was pregnant. And that child, none other than Andre's child. The space around him seemed to freeze. Everything that was revolving around Andre suddenly stopped. There were no more familiar sounds. No more victorious beats in his head. There was only a deadly silence, where Dani stood there, calmly as if this was obvious, while Andre gradually sank into an indescribable shock. The news was not simply an emotional shock, but a stab at the heart of what Andre believed, that he could control everything, that no one could make him lose control of the situation. But now, the presence of an unborn being shattered that belief. Not only because it came from Dani, someone he had once considered harmless, but also because it came at the exact moment Andre thought he had one. From that moment on, all of Andre's previous assumptions about Dani became meaningless. He began to doubt everything, that maybe everything between them was not random, that Dani could have planned it all. That every meeting, every look, every sweet word was just the tip of a carefully hatched plot. Memories flashed through his mind like a film in reverse, and in every small moment, Andre now saw the calculations that he had been too subjective to recognize before. He was no longer sure whether Dani loved him, hated him, or was carrying out some dark mission that had been planned in advance. He could not guess whether she was using the baby to tie him down, or simply a weapon. A link in the chain of destroying the reputation and authority he had worked so hard to build. The panic did not show on the outside, but internally. Andre felt like he was falling freely into a bottomless abyss. The feeling of disorientation lingered, clinging to his mind like a nightmare from which he could not wake up. All his strategies, from controlling the people around him, manipulating information, keeping personal secrets, were now seriously threatened by the very thing he could not control. The life inside Dani. She didn't need to speak, didn't need to threaten, didn't need to act violently. With that one truth, she shook the foundation of Andre's power, gently but cruelly. A fear began to appear in Andre's heart that had never existed before. Not the fear of losing power, not the fear of being exposed, but the fear of losing the initiative, losing the right to choose. When every action he now had to consider the existence of the child, the reaction of Dani. The reaction of the public if everything fell apart. He understood that he was falling into a maze with no way out. And Dani, even though she said nothing more, was still the most terrifying guide. She held an unexpected weapon, something that could not be erased or threatened: motherhood, and the power that came with it. From then on, every day that passed for Andre was a weary journey of self-questioning. He didn't dare look Dani in the eye, for there was a whole universe in it that he couldn't understand. On one hand, he felt guilty, regretful for underestimating her. On the other hand, he feared that Dani was actually dangerous, smarter, more patient, and more ruthless than he had imagined. The prospect of that child being born and becoming a part of Andre's life turned all his previous choices upside down. He was no longer the only one making decisions. But there was an additional factor, a new link, forcing him to share power, to share responsibility, something he had avoided all his life. But what's scarier is that Andre doesn't know if Dani will stop here. Will she continue to push him to the edge? Is the child the end, or just the beginning of a series of shocks? Dani doesn't need to do anything more, her silence is the answer. A silence that is more destructive than threats, more than public revenge. And Andre, who once thought he was the strongest, is now just a passive player in a game that Dani has set up all along. This is not a story for the faint of heart. It is a lesson in arrogance, subjectivity, and the price of misjudging others. In a world full of hypocrisy and manipulation, there is nothing more dangerous than a woman who knows what she is doing, especially when she holds in her hands the life of a child whose blood is the enemy's. The story between Dani and Andre will certainly continue, with many layers of secrets, many mental battles, and many truths that have never been revealed. But one thing is certain. From the moment Dani declared the truth, everything changed, not only for Andre, but for the world around them. Thank you for following our channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes, where the shocks continue, and the secrets are waiting to be revealed.